The air in Manhattan's grandest department store crackled with tension, as if the chandeliers themselves held their breath. Claire Thompson, the store manager, stood with her arms crossed, her piercing gaze locked on the man before her. "You thought you could just walk out with that scarf, didn't you?" she accused, her voice slicing through the hum of shoppers. Ethan Caldwell, tall and impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, froze mid-step, the silk scarf in question draped innocently over his shoulder. His hazel eyes, usually warm with a playful spark, narrowed as he turned to face her. "Excuse me," he said, his tone calm but edged with steel, the kind that made the crowd around them hush. Claire didn't flinch. She'd been running Bloom's department store for 3 years, her sharp instincts honed by countless shoplifting attempts. This man, with his polished charm and too perfect smile, wasn't fooling her. "Don't play innocent," she snapped, pointing at the scarf. "That's a $500 Hermes, and I saw you slip it into your jacket." The accusation landed like a grenade, drawing gasps from the onlookers circling them like vultures. Ethan's lips twitched, not with guilt, but with something closer to amusement. He adjusted his glasses, the frames glinting under the store's golden lights. "You're mistaken," he said simply, but the weight of his words carried a quiet authority that made Claire's certainty waver, just for a moment. She pushed it down. She'd dealt with smooth talkers before. "Step aside, sir," she said, motioning toward the security office. "We'll sort this out privately." Her voice was firm, but her heart raced. Something about this man's unshakable composure, the way he held himself like he owned the place, unsettled her. Ethan didn't move. Instead, he tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that felt like a spotlight. "Privately," he echoed, his voice low, almost intimate. "No, let's do this here. In front of everyone." The crowd murmured, phones already out, capturing the drama unfolding in the heart of Bloom's. Claire's jaw tightened. She wasn't about to let this escalate into a spectacle. Bloom's was her domain, her reputation built on order and control. She'd risen from a small-town cashier in Ohio to managing one of New York's most prestigious stores. And no one, not even this man with his infuriating confidence, was going to undermine her. "Security," she called, her voice ringing out. 2 guards appeared, their expressions grim as they flanked Ethan. He didn't resist, but his eyes never left Claire's. "You're making a mistake," he said softly, almost like a warning. "A big one." The words hung in the air as the guards escorted him toward the back office. Claire followed, her heels clicking against the marble floor, her mind racing. She'd seen his type before, entitled, charming, thinking they could talk their way out of anything. But something nagged at her, a flicker of doubt she couldn't quite shake. In the security office, Ethan sat casually, one leg crossed over the other, as if he were at a board meeting rather than under suspicion. Claire stood across from him, arms still crossed, her assistant manager, Maria, hovering nervously by the door. "Empty your pockets," Claire demanded. Ethan raised an eyebrow, then complied, pulling out a sleek wallet, a set of keys, and a phone that looked more expensive than her monthly rent. "No scarf." Claire's eyes darted to his jacket, still draped with the Hermes. "Take it off," she said, her voice clipped. With a sigh, Ethan shrugged off the jacket, revealing the scarf tucked neatly into the inner lining. Claire's heart sank, not with triumph, but with a strange unease. "There it is," she said, pointing. "Care to explain?" Ethan leaned back, his expression unreadable. "It's mine," he said simply. "I brought it in with me." Claire scoffed. You expect me to believe that? You were seen lingering by the display, and now it's conveniently in your jacket. Ethan's gaze hardened, but his voice remained steady. I don't expect you to believe anything. Ms. Thompson, he said, his use of her name catching her off guard. But I'd suggest you check the security footage before this goes any further. Claire froze. How did he know her name? She hadn't introduced herself. The unease in her gut grew, but she pushed it aside. Fine, she said, nodding to Maria. Pull the footage. As Maria scurried to the monitors, Claire studied Ethan. He was in his early 30s, with a face that could have graced a magazine, cover-sharp cheekbones, a jawline that could cut glass, and those eyes that seemed to see right through her. But it wasn't just his looks. There was a quiet power in the way he carried himself, a confidence that didn't need to shout. The footage flickered to life on the screen. Claire watched as Ethan entered the store, the scarf already draped over his shoulder. He hadn't touched the display. Her stomach twisted. This doesn't prove anything, she said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Ethan leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Ms. Thompson, I understand you're doing your job, but you're about to learn something important about assumptions. Before she could respond, Maria gasped, her eyes wide as she stared at her phone. Claire, she whispered, holding it out. You need to see this. Claire took the phone, her eyes scanning the screen. It was a news article from Forbes, dated a year ago. The headline read, Ethan Caldwell, tech prodigy, acquires Bloom's department store chain in $2 billion deal. Below it was a photo of the man sitting across from her, smiling that same infuriatingly calm smile. Her heart stopped. The room spun. Ethan Caldwell wasn't just a customer. He was the owner of the entire company. Claire's hands trembled as she handed the phone back to Maria, her mind racing to catch up with the reality crashing around her. Ethan Caldwell, the man she'd just accused of theft in front of a crowd, owned Bloom's. Every store, every display, every decision, including her job, answered to him. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable but his eyes sharp, watching her every move. So, he said, his voice soft but laced with an edge that cut through the silence. Do you still want to search my jacket? Claire's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to apologize, to explain, but the words stuck like thorns. She'd built her career on instinct, on reading people, and she'd been so sure. But now, the weight of her mistake pressed down on her, heavy and unforgiving. Mr. Caldwell, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know. You didn't ask. He interrupted, not unkindly, but with a firmness that made her flinch. You saw me, made a snap judgment, and ran with it. Why? Claire's face burned. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, but the truth gnawed at her. She'd seen Ethan' polished suit, his confidence dried, the way he moved through the store with an ease that screamed privilege and assumed the worst. But there was more to it, a deeper bias she hadn't admitted to herself until now. She'd overheard him earlier, laughing with a male friend, their hands brushing in a way that felt too intimate for her small-town sensibilities. It had colored her perception, and she hated herself for it. I'm sorry, she said finally, the words tasting like ash. I made a mistake. Ethan's gaze softened, just a fraction. Mistakes happen, he said. But this one wasn't just about a scarf, was it? Claire's stomach churned. She wanted to deny it, to say it was just protocol, but the truth was written in the way she'd scrutinized him, The way she'd let her assumptions about his identity cloud her judgment. Before she could respond, the door burst open, and a young man stormed in, his face flushed with anger. "Ethan, what the hell is going on?" The man was shorter, with curly dark hair and a leather jacket that screamed Brooklyn artist. His eyes darted between Ethan and Claire, landing on her with a glare. "You're the one who accused him." In front of everyone. "This is Lucas," Ethan said, his tone calm but tinged with amusement. "My partner." The word hit Claire like a slap. Partner. Not just a friend. Her mind flashed back to the moment she'd seen them together. The way she dismissed their closeness as something suspicious. Something wrong. She felt sick. "Lucas, it's fine," Ethan said, standing and placing a hand on Lucas's shoulder. "It's being handled." Handled? Lucas snapped, his voice rising. "She humiliated you out there. And for what? Because you're gay. Because you don't fit her idea of who belongs in a place like this." Claire's heart sank further. "That's not," she started, but Lucas cut her off. "Don't," he said, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. "I know how this works. I've seen it my whole life. You saw two guys together, and your first thought was trouble." Ethan squeezed Lucas's shoulder, his touch grounding. "Enough," he said softly, but there was no mistaking the authority in his voice. Lucas fell silent, though his eyes still burned. Claire took a shaky breath. "I was wrong," she said, forcing herself to meet Lucas's gaze. "About the scarf. About everything. I let my biases get in the way, and I'm sorry." Lucas didn't respond, but Ethan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Apology accepted," he said. "But this isn't just about me. This is about every person who walks into your store and gets judged before they can even speak." The weight of his words settled over Claire like a storm cloud. She thought of her staff, her customers, the countless interactions she'd overseen without questioning her own lens. How many others had she misjudged? How many had felt the sting of her assumptions? "I want to make this right," she said, her voice steadier now. "Tell me how." Ethan studied her for a long moment, as if weighing her sincerity. Then he smiled, a small, genuine smile that caught her off guard. "You can start by listening," he said. "Not just to me, but to everyone. Really listen." Before Claire could respond, Maria cleared her throat, her face pale. "Claire, the crowd outside, it's getting bigger. People are posting about this online. It's going viral." Claire's heart plummeted. She could already see the headlines. Store manager accuses CEO of theft in homophobic fiasco. Her career, her reputation, everything she'd worked for, was teetering on the edge of a cliff. Ethan glanced at his phone, his expression unperturbed. "Let them talk," he said. "Maybe it's time for a real conversation." The security office felt suffocating, the walls closing in as Claire processed the magnitude of her mistake. Outside, the crowd buzzed with whispers and camera flashes, their phones turning her error into a public spectacle. Ethan, however, remained infuriatingly calm, his presence a stark contrast to the chaos threatening to engulf her. "Maria," Claire said, her voice tight, "get PR on the phone. We need to control this before it spirals further." Maria nodded and slipped out, leaving Claire alone with Ethan and Lucas. Lucas paced, his anger barely contained. "You know what this looks like, right?" he said, his eyes locked on Claire. "It's not just about you accusing him. It's about why. People out there are already saying this is a hate crime. Claire's stomach twisted. It wasn't she started, then stopped. She couldn't deny the truth in Lucas's words. Her snap judgment had been fueled by more than just suspicion of theft. She'd let her discomfort with Ethan and Lucas's relationship cloud her reasoning. And now the world was watching. Ethan placed a hand on Lucas's arm, his touch gentle but firm. "Lucas, give her a chance," he said. "She's trying." Lucas scoffed but stopped pacing, his shoulders slumping. Ethan turned to Claire, his expression serious but not unkind. "This isn't just about you or me," he said. "This is about the culture in this store, in this city, in this country. People are judged every day for who they are, not what they do. You have a chance to change that here." Claire nodded, her throat tight. She'd always prided herself on being fair, on treating everyone equally, but today had exposed a blind spot she hadn't wanted to see. "What can I do?" she asked, her voice raw. "I want to fix this." Ethan's eyes softened, but his voice held steady. "Start with your staff. Train them to see people, not stereotypes. Make this store a place where everyone feels safe, not just the ones who fit your idea of normal." Claire swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. She thought of her team, good people, but shaped by the same biases she'd carried. She thought of her customers, the ones who'd walked away feeling unseen or unwelcome. She'd been so focused on running a tight ship that she'd missed the bigger picture. Before she could respond, Maria burst back in, her face ashen. "Claire, the PR team is freaking out. There's a video online, someone recorded the whole thing. It's got 1 million views already." Claire's heart sank. She could imagine the comments, the outrage, the calls for her resignation. She looked at Ethan, expecting anger, but he just sighed, running a hand through his hair. "This is bigger than I thought," he admitted. "But maybe that's not a bad thing." Lucas frowned. "Not a bad thing. Ethan, they're tearing her apart online, and it's going to come back on you. On us." Ethan shook his head. "Let them. If this forces people to talk about prejudice, about how quick we are to judge, then maybe it's worth it." Claire stared at him, stunned. He wasn't just the owner of Bloom's. He was someone who saw beyond the immediate crisis, who saw potential for change in the chaos. She felt a mix of awe and shame. "Why aren't you furious?" she asked. "I humiliated you." Ethan's smile was small, almost wistful. "I've been through worse," he said. "Growing up gay in Texas, you learn to pick your battles. This one, it's not about me. It's about what comes next." The door opened again, and a woman in a sharp blazer entered. Samantha, the head of PR. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, her voice professional but strained. "We need to issue a statement. The press is outside, and social media is exploding." Ethan nodded. "Draft something, but I want to review it. And I want Claire involved." Claire blinked, caught off guard. "Me?" "You made the mistake," Ethan said, his tone matter of fact. "You're also the one who can make it right. People will listen to you if you're honest." Claire's chest tightened. She'd spent years building a reputation as a no-nonsense leader, but now she was being asked to bear her flaws to the world. It terrified her, but Ethan's faith in her unearned, undeserved ignited something deep within. She nodded. "Okay. Let's do it." The press conference was set for the next morning, but Claire barely slept. Her apartment, a modest one-bedroom in Queens, felt too small to contain the storm of thoughts swirling in her head. She replayed the moment she'd accused Ethan, the way the crowd had stared, the way Lucas's anger had mirrored her own guilt. She'd always thought of herself as fair, as someone who saw people for who they were. But yesterday had shattered that illusion. By 8 a.m., Bloom's was swarmed with reporters, their cameras flashing like a lightning storm. Claire stood at the podium, her hands gripping the edges to steady herself. Ethan stood beside her, his presence a quiet anchor. Lucas was there too, his expression guarded but no longer hostile. Claire took a deep breath, her voice trembling as she began. "Yesterday, I made a mistake," she said, the words echoing through the microphones. "I accused a man of theft based on assumptions about who he was, how he looked, and who he loved. That man was Ethan Caldwell, the owner of this company. But this isn't about his title. It's about the fact that I judged him before I knew him." The crowd was silent, their eyes fixed on her. Claire's heart pounded, but she pressed on. "I've spent my career believing I was fair, but yesterday showed me I have work to do. We all do. Bloom's is more than a story, it's a community. And I'm committed to making it a place where everyone feels seen, respected, and valued." She glanced at Ethan, who gave her a small nod. It wasn't absolution, but it was encouragement. She continued, outlining a plan for staff training, diversity initiatives, and a public apology campaign. The words poured out, raw and honest, and when she finished, the room erupted in applause. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady as he addressed the crowd. "Claire's right, this isn't just about one mistake. It's about the world we want to build. I've spent my life fighting for acceptance, not just for myself, but for everyone who's ever felt like they don't belong. Let's make this a turning point." The press conference ended, but the work was just beginning. Claire spent the day meeting with her team, listening to their concerns, and outlining the changes ahead. Some were skeptical, others inspired, but all were listening. For the first time, Claire felt like she was leading not just with authority, but with purpose. That evening, Ethan found her in her office, surrounded by papers and coffee cups. "You did well today," he said, leaning against the doorframe. Claire looked up, exhausted but determined. "I meant what I said. I want to make this right." "I know," Ethan said. "And I'm not firing you, if that's what you're worried about." She laughed, a small, shaky sound. "I wouldn't blame you if you did." Ethan's smile was warm, genuine. "You're human, Claire. You messed up, but you're trying to fix it, and that's what matters." Lucas appeared behind him, his expression softer now. "He's right," he said, surprising her. "I was angry yesterday, but you're doing something. That counts." Claire's eyes stung, but she blinked back the tears. "Thank you," she said. "Both of you." Months later, Bloom's was transformed. The store buzzed with new energy, its staff trained in inclusivity, its displays celebrating diversity. Claire had spearheaded community outreach programs, partnering with local LGBTQ+ organizations to host events and workshops. The viral video, once a source of shame, had become a catalyst for change, with Bloom's now hailed as a model for corporate accountability. Claire stood in the store's main atrium, watching as Ethan and Lucas cut the ribbon for a new exhibit celebrating queer artists. Ethan caught her eye and smiled, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they'd shared. Lucas, too, had softened toward her, their conversations now filled with mutual respect. As the crowd cheered, Claire felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She'd made a mistake, But she'd also made a choice to listen, to learn, to grow. Ethan had been right. It wasn't about the scarf or the accusation. It was about what came next. That night, Claire sat in her office, drafting a letter to her staff. She wrote about the importance of second chances, of seeing people for who they are, not who we assume them to be. She thought of Ethan, who'd turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for change. She thought of Lucas, whose anger had pushed her to confront her own biases. And she thought of herself, a woman who'd once thought she had all the answers, now learning to ask better questions. She sealed the letter and looked out at the store, its lights glowing against the New York skyline. Bloom's wasn't just a store anymore. It was a beacon, a place where everyone could belong. And Claire, for the first time in years, felt like she belonged too.